Welcome everybody to Tropical Weather Update. Today is Tuesday, September the 10th, and this is an update related to Tropical Storm Francine, soon to be Hurricane Francine, which will be imposing a dangerous threat to the Louisiana Gulf Coast on Wednesday afternoon and evening. So let's get right to it. What you're looking at right now on the screen is Band 13, the clean long wave infrared satellite view, which shows the cloud tops. As you can see, there is a big band of moisture well apart from the storm, already affecting the Louisiana coast. That is no longer part of Francine. It is kind of split off. But the part that you see near the Mexico border and the Texas border now is becoming consolidated and more organized, according to the National Hurricane Center, and around 25 degrees latitude north. You can see the center of the storm now forming. This should rapidly intensify within the next 24 hours, but peak at about a Category 2 hurricane strength, and I'll show you the intensification forecast before shear affects the northern and southern portions of the storm, preventing it from becoming an extremely dangerous hurricane. So that's the good news. But the bad news is it probably will reach Category 2 status before making landfall late on Wednesday, tomorrow, along the Louisiana coast. So let's take a look now at let's take a look at the National Hurricane Center's actual forecast. You can see they have it becoming a hurricane soon because it already has winds of 65 miles per hour. And although it doesn't look impressive yet on the satellite, it is now organized and concentric, and an eye should form within the next 24 hours, and they should begin measuring wind speeds above 74 miles per hour, which will classify it as a hurricane. 65 is close enough. Plus, the central pressure has dropped. So we should see better organization and a better satellite presentation in the next 12 to 24 hours. Looking at this chart, you will see it's moving north-northeast, but it will kind of turn more toward the northeast, and the forecast has it making landfall approximately 6 to 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening along the central Louisiana Gulf Coast, somewhere likely west of the New Orleans area, but east of Lake Charles. And according to the discussion, it says that the track has shifted eastward. So if you see here, it says the track guidance is generally in good agreement. However, there has been an eastward shift of the guidance since the last advisory, and thus the new forecast track is also shifted eastward. In response to this eastward shift in track, the hurricane warning in Louisiana was extended eastward, and this advisory has tropical storm warnings and watches for the coasts of Mississippi and Alabama, but not hurricane watches. So they're pretty certain that the hurricane is going to strike somewhere along the coast of Louisiana, not continue to shift eastward and impose a threat to the Mississippi Gulf Coast. But if I were in Mississippi, especially Biloxi, Gulfport area, Mobile, Alabama, I would keep an eye on the track, because if it does continue to shift eastward, the storm surge threat becomes greater for those areas which are directly on the coast. Let's take a look at the tracks. This is from tropicaltidbits.com, and as you can see, they're all in agreement of a landfall in Louisiana, but some have it a little bit further to the west, in the Lake Charles area, and some further to the east, getting closer to the New Orleans area. If I were a wagering man, I would say that it's going to make landfall somewhere, east of New Orleans. Baton Rouge probably would be the closest major metropolitan area to where landfall occurs. Of course, that's much further north. The good news is, if you look at this Google map, almost all the areas where landfall may occur here are basically wildlife management areas. There are no cities directly along the coast of Louisiana because this is all marshland and swampland, and it is not really inhabitable. So you have to get further north. But if you are living in Morgan City, Matthews, Lockport, obviously down near the coast area here, Port Fourchon. I don't think these are highly populated areas, but you can still see some areas here I'm not very familiar with this area, but these areas are very flood prone. And so if you live in southern portions of Louisiana, in the areas I'm showing here on Google Maps, you need likely to evacuate or consider the evacuation orders, Morgan City, etc. As you get further north, I think Baton Rouge is far away from the ocean. But again, all of these areas are subject to flooding due to the Mississippi River or Lake Pontchartrain, and they have good levee systems in place now. But, again, these are low-lying areas, Lafayette. So anywhere in this area here from Lafayette to New Orleans, I think, is in the crosshairs of this, which probably will be a Category 2 hurricane. Let's take a look at that as well. The intensity forecast also from tropicaltidbits.com. I give credit to that website. That's a beautiful website run by Levi Cowan, a meteorologist. Definitely check out this website. But he has the intensity forecast showing as a Category 1 approaching Category 2 strength and then dropping off very quickly once the storm makes landfall. He explains in his videos that as the storm comes close to making landfall, there will be shear in the atmosphere, drier air coming in from the south and shear in the north end of the storm that will prevent it from becoming a super powerful major hurricane 3, 4, or 5. But again, only God knows. We don't know what's going to happen until it happens. But they've been pretty good on these intensity forecasts lately. And his explanation, I watched his video, is convincing to me that this storm will not become a Category 4 or 5 hurricane before landfall. It may become a strong Category 2, but it's more likely to remain a Category 1 strength. Looking at the model guidance, let's take a look at the H-Worth hurricane model. And this is where it's located now. And you can see it becomes better organized. And you can see where the landfall is occurring right there at around 969 millibars. If we look at the GFS, a little wider view, the landfall maybe a little slightly further west on this one at 975 millibars. So general agreement as to where in the central coast of Louisiana, somewhere west of Lake Charles but east of New Orleans, where the landfall is going to occur. And as far as intensity, somewhere around 970 to 980 millibars. If we look at, I have an actual Saffir-Simpson chart here. They don't usually put the minimum pressure anymore. It's based on wind speed only. But the older Saffir-Simpson charts showed pressure, and 965 to 979 millibars is a Category 2 hurricane. That both of the models we looked at showed it making landfall in that range of minimum central pressure of 965 to 979. So, that's 96 miles per hour to 110 mile per hour winds. By the time the storm reaches Baton Rouge, for example, the winds will probably have subsided slightly. So I don't think this is going to be a disastrous hurricane based on where it's making landfall in a very unpopulated area of Louisiana, and where the storm surge is going to affect basically what is already swampland. But there are smaller cities within this area that are going to receive evacuation orders, and they're going to need to leave. I don't think at this point in time this is going to be a catastrophe for New Orleans, for example, or Biloxi. But we do need to keep an eye on the track, because if it's shifting eastward and that's the trend, 12 to even 24 hours from now, we may have a different story. So keep an eye on internet sources, local radio, local TV stations to see what the track is, to see if you live in the New Orleans area or east of there in the Mississippi Gulf Coast, whether you need to do any type of evacuation. But right now, the storm is going to be hitting a relatively unpopulated coastal area along the central coast of Louisiana. All right, let's see if I have anything else here to share with you. The storm surge advisories, again, do not reach all the way to the up to 10 feet. As you can see, is between Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge and Port Fourchon. Again, there are no populated cities along this coastal area. 4 to 7 feet when you get closer to the New Orleans area, and then 2 to 4 feet along the Mobile and Mississippi Gulf Coast. That's okay. 2 to 4 feet is okay. 5 to 10 feet, it becomes a problem for the Mississippi Gulf Coast as well as for the Mobile Gulf Coast. But it's not as big of a problem for these wildlife refuge areas unless you live in one of those areas, which is not that large of a population center. So let's go back again. We've looked at the charts. We've looked at the model guidance, the intensity guidance. That's about all I have to share with you today. If you do find this content informative, please give it a like. Share it if there's someone that you know that lives in this area, and I'm sure they'll already be aware of many other sources for this information. But hopefully I've shared something useful for you today. And if you live in this area, take your preparations today, because by tomorrow in the afternoon, conditions are going to deteriorate rapidly. Thank you, and be safe, everybody. Have a good day.